ABC, what's up? It's me, yours truly, coming to you this time from the Boom Boom Room. I haven't done a video in here in quite some time, and I thought, hey, why not shoot it in here? Which maybe those of you that don't know, it's my kind of 70s theme listening room. Um, but yeah, I decided to come in here this time to do my response to Dylan, Nobel Records, his 750 subscribers contest. Um, actually just kind of getting to know Dylan, caught up on a couple of his videos over the past few weeks actually. And yeah, I mean, great guy, awesome collection, definitely great taste in music. We definitely have a lot of common loves in that. So it's been really cool getting to know him and his channel. And he's already hit 750 subs, and I just gonna jump on board to contribute to his subscribers contest. And before I get rolling too far, again, I'm trying to do this with every video now. If there's something playing in the background, kind of show you what it is. Highway Robbery. Great album. Just kind of some good, kind of a nice mix between classic rock and psychedelic feel. I mean, just some great kind of heavy stuff. Heavy and light. I mean, it's a great, solid classic rock album. So, but anyway, that's what's playing in the background. So let's just kind of jump right into it. It was his, I think, biography contest, just kind of asking questions that, just kind of digging into us individually in our history with music and vinyl. So the very first question, first memory with vinyl. I'll give you the first memory I was told, and I'll give you the first memory that I actually have. First memory I was told, and I don't remember any of this. My mom used to tell me when I was really, really young, I had a little turntable and a few records and 45s and stuff like that. And she would say, we always knew when you were up in the morning because you would wake up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, still pitch dark outside. You would get out of bed, but you wouldn't turn on any lights in the room or in the house whatsoever. And you would just walk over to the turntable on the other side of the room and just sit on the floor and just start playing records. And it's like you would just sit there listening to records until, whomever else woke up and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, and I don't remember that at all. And she's like, yeah, to me, it's no surprise that your life is the way that it is now from a music standpoint because you were doing that from day one. Now, I don't remember that at all, any of that. But the first vinyl record I actually do remember like being involved with, if you will, is this one right here, which I actually got as VCLT a few years ago when I told this story. And it's Debbie Boone's You Light Up My Life. I kid you not. This is the first record I can ever remember grabbing and putting on a turntable and listening to with my hands. And I remember too, because again, it was one of those little flip down turntables with the speakers that you could take off the side or whatever. And I remember, since I knew how technology worked, that I knew that when you played the record, you had to bring the needle back over to start it over, because I would just sit there and listen to it over and over. But in between, while you're bringing the needle back, you could talk to Debbie through the speakers. So if you put your mouth up really close to the speakers, you could actually talk to her and tell her how great her song was, and that you were going to play it again and all of that. And then you'd play the record again, and then you tell Debbie again how great it was. And I remember just like sitting on the floor and doing that for I don't know how many times. But yeah, my first memory of a vinyl record was Debbie Boone's You Light Up My Life and enjoying it to death. Oh man, don't tell anybody about that. We're gonna keep this between us. Question number 2, first record you fell in love with, which is a tough question. There's so many records that I love, but what I thought I would do is kind of define love first, and then it would help me figure out what record to pick. So the way I thought about it was, there was tons of stuff that I liked. I was really, really young, but disco was kind of in and just fading out as I was like a little bitty kid and all of that. So what I recall is just remember hearing, You Can Ring My Bell over here, hearing the Bee Gees here, and like Aretha Franklin and all of that. I remember loving all of that. But the first record that I loved, that would have to be the one that I got and I just played over and over and over because I couldn't get enough of it. I just didn't hear it in passing and really like it. So that was kind of the definition that I put on that. So not counting the Debbie Boone, The first record that I remember actually falling in love with by that definition was this one here, which is a Planet Rock by Africa Bambaataa and Soul Sonic Force. Again, this had to be maybe fourth grade or something like that. My cousin Theron, I got invited to his house to eat dinner, which I'd never done before, so it was all kind of all exciting. So I rode my bike over there. He and I used to hang out and ride bikes and that type of stuff. I'll never forget because his mom made this. She made this nasty meat that you know, you can't leave this table until you guys clean your plates. And it's like, well, cook something good. But but we cleaned our plates, and she went out and bought him a couple of albums that day. And one was a 45 of Rapture by Blondie, and the other one was Planet Rock. I think it was a single, Planet Rock by Africa Bambaataa. And we listened to both. You know, we listened to Blondie, and it was awesome. We danced around and did our thing. But man, when he put on Planet Rock, I mean, without exaggerating, I know I listened to that song that day or that evening 10 to 11 times in a row minimum. Maybe it was more. And the only reason we didn't spin it again was because it was time for me to go home. But I just remember getting so absorbed in that song just so fast. And it just, I remember like laying in bed that night thinking about it after I went home, because it just moved me that much. So that's what I have to say is the first album that I felt that, you know, love, if you will. So that's first record I fell in love with. Record with great significance. Again, considering music marks so many points in my life, there's so many of those too. But the one that I thought is probably of a great significance would be this one here, which is Godsmack's self-titled, which is kind of cool too. That I have a copy that's, not only is it hard to get a copy, period, but to have one actually signed by Sully Erma when I met him back in 2012. But the reason why this one is so significant is, you know, we all have tough times that we go through in our life and all that good stuff. But when I think about the toughest time that I went through in my life, when I was really at an absolute kind of rock final bottom kind of thing, prior to that, I was in love with music and I listened to all kinds of music, but there was nothing really collecting about it for me. I had a bunch of CDs, but that was just because I had to buy the CDs to get the music. You know, it wasn't all the downloading and all that stuff then. You know, so it didn't make any difference if I had an actual CD I bought out of a store or if I had a bunch of burnt CDs where I just put, you know, random stuff on. Didn't matter, just as long as I could just play the music. So that's kind of where I was. Then after I kind of went through this down period, a very significant down period, as I started to find ways to come out of it, one of the things that really did it for me was reconnecting myself to music and connecting myself to different things in music. So two of the things that I started doing is getting into the collecting side of music, but also kind of allowing my identity within music to start bringing itself out, which kind of came to the collecting. And that was when I really started like, I need to just start going to concerts. And that makes me happy. That makes me, and prior to that, I had been to a handful. And again, coming out of that time period, I probably went to more concerts in that 6 months than I had in my entire life previous. And one of the bands that just really, really caught me at that time was Godsmack. And I saw them so many times, and I saw them in Missouri, I saw them in Nebraska, I saw them in Illinois, I saw them in New Hampshire, I saw them in Boston. Like, I was just all over the place and seeing concerts everywhere, and it was just kind of all things music just revived me back at that time. And this was the one album that I just remember I just could not get enough of. Every time I listened to it, it energized me. It gave me back a piece of my identity. It just made me stronger every single time I listened to it. And then there was Awake, and it's like, then there was Faceless, and there was Four, and all of a sudden it was just like, you know, I just kind of came back a renewed person with a different appreciation for the things I felt were really important to me in life, and one was music, which is really kind of a defining moment that's responsible for a lot of what you've seen in Mr. Hall of Fame's world. So this album is extremely significant in that regard because, all of that stuff almost pinpoints back to maybe 2 or 3 albums, and this was probably the most significant one of those 2 or 3. So yeah, that's definitely a very, very significant album for me. And by the way, Dylan, the story you told about, you know, being on the side of the road and all of that stuff, I mean, about your, you know, your wife, and that was just, that was freaking awesome, man. That was like something out of a movie. I didn't hear that the first time I watched your video, so when I came back and watched the whole thing, really, really cool, man. Question number 4. An album that you spent the most on. The most I ever paid for a record was Dave Matthews Band's These Crowded Streets. Perfect mint copy, and I paid $205 for it. You know, back when spending that much on a record was no big deal. Yeah, so that's the most I ever paid. And I actually sold it like 4 years ago. I think I sold it for $350. So, you know, I actually turned a very good profit on it. But that's the most I've ever shelled out of my own pocket for an album. And I really can't, well, yeah, that's the most I ever paid for an album. Ultimate Grail. Pretty self-explanatory question. I'll give 2 honorable mentions, and then again, you know, there's tons of albums that I could say I want, and, you know, all of that. But what I kind of thought, again, is try to figure out a definition, then it help you kind of narrow it down. So what I thought was, if I look over the past 5, 6 years, 7 years, let's say, what album was I honestly willing to pay the most money for, or I offered the most money for, even if I didn't get it? Okay, that's a, you know, good way to narrow it down. So honorable mention, I would love to get a copy of that Dave Matthews Band's These Crowded Streets back. I wouldn't pay what it probably cost to get it, so I'm just hoping for their reissue at some point in time. Another honorable mention, Megadeth's Euthanasia. By far not my favorite Megadeth album, but it's just one of those ones I've always wanted. You know, I want to own that album. I just want it in my collection. But the one that I would say would be just an awesome grail would be Kiss Sonic Boom. That's an album I would definitely love to get my hands on. And when I look over the past, you know, 5, 6, 7 years, when I look at bids I've done on eBay and stuff like that, the highest bid I've ever put on an album on eBay in the past 5 or 6 years was Kiss Sonic Boom, and I didn't win. And I put a pretty significant bid in it too, but I didn't win. So I would say that's probably, you know, one grail that I would love to have. So yeah, man, there you go. Again, kind of some good flashback questions in there. But once again, congratulations on the 750 subs. Glad I got a chance to jump on the contest here. Hope it goes smooth. Hope you get a bunch of subs. And I'll try to remember to, once I get this posted, I go back on my computer and actually put a link to your subs video here. So there you go, VC. Great to see you guys as always, or chat with you guys, and we'll talk to you soon.